financial and economic security is fundamental to being able to protect yourself in any era, but especially in times like the ones we're living in, where things are very uncertain and Biden inflation is through the roof. And, there's a saying that you cannot generate power when you're standing on a rolling log. Or in the sex trafficking realm, my business partner Jason and I, long before we knew each other a year and a half ago when we first met, we were both running rescues in foreign countries on kids who are being sex trafficked. And, he's got a saying that a slave cannot help another slave. It is very, very, very hard to do good work in this world when you're living hand to mouth, when you're not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from, where you don't have enough money to feed your kids, where you're playing the check game that you threw out there that, we've all done. Like, I've only got $100 in my checking account. I need to write $200 a check. So I'm going to give this guy the check first. And hopefully by the time the second check clears, I'll have my next paycheck in. I mean, I didn't grow up rich. I met a lot of people in the last few years who clearly did. I wasn't one of them. My mother was a homemaker and my dad was a grease monkey. He was worked in auto body shops, right? And had a new job every 2 months because he had a problem with authority. So, we were always, trying to figure out how we were going to make ends meet kind of thing. And it is a rough road to hoe. And I was talking to my buddy Jason Cisneros, who fights for, sex trafficked youth. He's a public speaker. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's bought, sold, made a lot of businesses, but he didn't grow up rich either. His dad was, I think, a Hell's Angel, belonged to a motorcycle gang, ran drugs, tried to kill him and his mom by rigging the house to blow up with gasoline when Jason was only 17 years old. Luckily, by the time he and his mom got home, the neighbors had already smelled the gas, called the cops, and the cops had arrested the stepdad. But this is not a guy who came into this world with a silver spoon in his mouth, but, he met some people that said, hey, you're not living up to your potential. We're going to mentor you. You're a smart kid. You want to be a business owner. If you get some skills under your belt, we think you'll be really successful. And that's what he did. And I'm pretty sure the guy is probably worth more than everybody else on Clay Clark's stage combined right now. And he doesn't need to work. He had sold all his business holdings in 2019, just coincidentally, right before COVID hit, right? But he's got 5 kids and a couple of them are still young. They're young kids, and he doesn't want them growing up in a FEMA camp. He doesn't want to live in a communist America. So when we were talking, backstage after one of the Clay events and later, when I got home, I said, dude, what are we going to do? Everybody knows Clay is constantly saying it to his crowd of people in the green room, his podcasters, his people. We got to defund the left. We got to defund the enemy and refund the kingdom. Refund America, refund the people who are fighting for freedom. And it's a simple thing to say. It's much harder to do when you go to order online and the only options are Walmart, Amazon, and all the big guys who are lefty, libtard, loony-owned companies. And damn well every time you buy another thing of cat litter, another thing of toilet paper, that you're basically funding the enemy to take you out with bullets that they're sending your way in the forms of censorship, in the forms of hiking the prices more than the middle class can even afford it right now. I mean, my gosh, out here in California, paying $5 and $6 a gallon at the pump. I mean, this is just insanity right now. Like, it's unlivable conditions. The inflation is through the roof, and anybody who's alive with the polls, even the people who voted for Biden, know that to be true. So we're like, how are we going to do with this? What we want to buy from patriots. We want to support ourselves, but there's nowhere to do it at. Like, how are we going to get this done? So Jason's obviously history is in business, and I like to talk. Everybody knows that. And I said, look, we need like a patriot Amazon. And he goes, I know. And I've been thinking the same thing. And I've been putting my thinking cap on about opening a new company. And I said, well, me too. And it's stupid for both of us to do the same thing. Why don't we do it together? So we got together. We became co-founders of the company. The company's name is Noble Us. It's pronounced Noblest, but it's spelled Nobleus.com, Noblest.com. And there were a bunch of West Point grads, officers, all of them. A lot of them had seen sustained combat theaters, in the Iraq War, in Persian Gulf, in Afghanistan. And these guys were doing the same thing, great minds run in the same direction. So we all joined forces. We put our heads together. We started working on Noblest over a year ago. We wanted to open last year this time. But the technology just wasn't quite there yet, and we didn't want to do it half-assed. So we waited, we pushed pause, we took this entire year, got the technology wired tight, got everything smoothed in, grooved in, and when I saw you last, a few days ago when I was at Clay Clark and Branson, we announced the launch of Noblest that night. Charlie Kirk is all in. He's backing us. The people who back him and a lot of the other major influencers are called Salem Media. Salem is all in. They're giving us all their unused ad spots for Charlie and other folks. And it's basically a store, a fully loaded e-commerce site it's got 500,000 products on it already, soon to be 1 million, soon to be 2 million. And basically it's not our store. It's not like, oh, we want to be Amazon and make money off of you. No, we want you to have a store. We want Joshua Hayes to have a store. We want Ann Vandersteel to have a store. We want Doug Billings to have a store. We want your listener, Joe Blow and John Q. Public, Jane Q. Public, to have their own store. So you go to the website, you put your name in, you put your bank account in, you give your store a name, we secure the URL for you, and in a little while, a couple minutes later, you have a $2 million e-commerce store that would have taken you millions of dollars and years to create on your own. And now when you're at the PTA meeting, when you're at your church group on Sunday, when you're standing in line at the grocery store and people are like, oh, I'm going to be ordering my kids' presents from Amazon this year and I'm so, delayed and I've only got 2 days left to do it, you can just gently say to them, that's great. Why don't you order from my store instead? And instead of buying cat litter and toilet paper in their kid's backpack and their favorite toy this Christmas on Amazon or Walmart, you can buy it from your friend's store or from your favorite influencer store, from your own store. So that's kind of how it works. We're super excited about it. I think this thing is going to be lit. I think it is going to go off like a giant mushroom cloud overnight explosion. When I mentioned it on Clay Clark's stage, we had 700 people sign up for their own store that night. I think there were only about 1,000 people in the audience. It was crazy. This is an idea whose time is yesterday. People are overly ready to be defunding Amazon and refunding ourselves, and this is the vehicle by which they could do it.
Yeah, I remember that night. I think I texted you at like midnight because I was like, I'm not going to be able to do it in time. Yeah, it was. I was excited about it because I unfortunately about a year ago I've been trying to run my own apparel company, and I'm a technological idiot. So I had somebody else try to do the Amazon stuff, and they started nickeling and diming me. I mean, it was going to cost me $1,000 just to start selling my T-shirts. And that wasn't building the site or anything. That was just getting the right codes to sell my T-shirts.
Yeah. It is a nightmare. You got to order your product. You got to pay people to get it ready for you. You got to handle shipping, handle returns, build the website. If you're not a techie, have somebody else do your website. If a tornado hits FedEx in Tennessee, now your customer can't get their order. Now you got to be refunding them. Like, we have taken that whole headache away from people. 50% of small business owners fail in their first year. 95% have failed by the 5th year for the reasons you just stated. Like, we're all too busy to be trying to be a jack of all trades, master of none on this whole, how to be an entrepreneur thing. Yeah. And those are appalling statistics. We need to change that playing field. And the way to do it is to make it easy and to make it be so people who don't have a lot of money already can afford to start playing ball. Because if you can give them a turnkey solution where they don't need to take out a loan to do it, a small business entity loan to do it, and they can just get their own store, talk it up to their friends and family, which they're going to be talking anyway while they're standing in line and going to Christmas parties, and you literally are handing them back the keys to their own financial freedom. But it wasn't